And perhaps Hong Kong, Hong Kong is there needs to be a bit more sort of planning, I think, so that everyone is clear. But obviously, it's not always easy to get people to turn up to meetings beforehand and agree what's going on and so.
What I also want to point out is that this protest is successful. Well, I say close to successful, if there are no let's say, the against each other situations happened at the end, it was perfect. Okay. Right now is, I say, like 97 or 98% perfect because of what happened at the end of the protest. And that gave me a kind of thought is, well, actually it's already happened. The newspapers, okay, the main medias in Hong Kong, especially those which against the 5 district resignation, this campaign, they will have a topic which say LSD, this plan won't work, or things like that.
And I think the Hong Kong Standard would say hooliganism. So
hooliganism.
Hooliganism. So
it sounds like a football match, doesn't it?
The violence fans.
I read that. That's an interesting word to use. You never normally would hear the word hooliganism. What's the word in Chinese?
Hooliganism is violence, basically.
But sort of out of control. The idea of a mob.
I mean, for football, we say 足球暴民 is the violent fans of football.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to a football match in England. I've seen some real hooliganism, and I think that is not what happened on this protest. Actually, to be fair, even to those activists, it was nothing like that actually. But talking about this other protest that happened at the Lo Wu border.
Okay.
Now that was interesting in terms of the law. That's interesting. Because obviously, apparently what happened is that plainclothes police mainland plainclothes police officers grabbed some activists and took them from the Hong Kong side across to be interrogated for a few hours before releasing them. And now that seems to me that is unlawful for them to do that.
And also the Hong Kong police, they just stand aside and they do not do anything. They just stand there and watch. People compare with both incidents. They asked the Hong Kong police why you act like a chicken at the Lo Wu border, and then you act so aggressively in front of Beijing liaison office. People raise this question.
It's a good question. That is a good question. And obviously this particular protest, it looked like this sort of the Lo Wu one. It happened in what I would call sort of no man's land. The sort of the area between the Hong Kong checkpoint and the mainland Chinese. But presumably that's still the Hong Kong government have got authority over, haven't they? Because they haven't actually gone through the mainland Chinese checkpoint. So they, as far as I can tell, it was totally wrong of the mainland Chinese, and it's a threat. It's an attack, a threat to Hong Kong's independence and rule of law. I think something like that. I think. I was quite shocked by that, and I hope that there'll be more of a reaction over the next few weeks from democratic lawmakers about it, because it seemed to be totally out of order for them to do that.
There's another thing which I'm sorry, I have to cut off this. There's also another thing which is on December 27th, those Chinese police, they can across the border and then I can't say arrest, but close to arrest of Hong Kong citizens. Once they've broken this kind of the dam, later on they can go to maybe northern part of Hong Kong, maybe Fanling or Tuen Mun to arrest people.
Because I remember that a year or two ago there was a story of that actually. There was a reports of a few mainland Chinese apparently operating. I remember it was over in Mount Davis or somewhere on Hong Kong Island, and
caught by the police.
Yeah, they were caught doing something by the police, and they said, "Oh, we're mainland police officers here," and so on. And just now and again, you hear of incidents like that, and it's almost like the Hong Kong government and the Hong Kong police, they are afraid of standing up sometimes to them and saying, "Listen, it's totally out of order. It's unlawful. It's illegal what you're doing. Get the hell back across your side." And
from what I've seen from to the police, when like about 5 or 6 years ago, when we march on the protest of the 1st of July, they were quite okay. But now I could see their face. They quite hate us to come out to protest.
The situation is getting worse and worse and worse. Okay, and also which you can see the last several times of the protest. July 1st of this year. Okay. Jan 4th is okay. I mean, June 4th is okay. Okay, because there's no parade. Everybody's just sitting in Victoria Park. July 1st. And then the second is October 1st. You see the police is getting aggressively, but aggressively to the citizens.
Sure, yeah. And just going back to this protest at Lo Wu, I mean, it was unusual that obviously at that location, for it to happen actually, that's kind of interesting that a group of Hong Kong activists were willing to do that, because in some ways it surprised me that they were willing to do that actually, because obviously it's quite a sensitive location, isn't it? A very sensitive location, I could tell from reading the reports that the immigration people in the police and so on weren't quite sure about quite how to deal with it. They just hadn't had anything quite like that before happening at Lo Wu checkpoint. I mean, it's an interesting protest. I can't see a reason why they shouldn't have staged that protest. Actually, why not? And in terms of the law, there's no. It's not against the law to walk through Lo Wu with a placard. Actually, is it?
No such thing at all.
Yeah, I can't see how that could be a crime or against the law. And certainly no one was arrested for it, were they?
Well, Matt, think of it. Who they are protesting.
Yeah.
Who they're against.
Yeah.
Of course, those people, they are watching you like a hawk, and then when you do something wrong, they just grab you.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very cheeky protest, actually, in terms of the actual location, and you can see why, I don't quite know how far they thought they were going to get, the activists, but, up until the mainland, it would have been interesting to see, because obviously the mainland Chinese, they would have taken them in and turned them back, wouldn't they? If they, once they got to that point of going through the actual mainland Chinese side. But you can see, I expect the immigration, they'll be having some big discussions,
right?
Because they'll be thinking, shit, how are we going to deal with this if it happens again, and so on. But certainly in terms of the location, it was interesting, I thought, and it was quite positive. It was quite a powerful, in some ways, it was quite a powerful protest. Right, we're running out of time. We're going to continue this talk in part 2, actually, and talk more. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.